The property sector is going through a transition. It is adjusting to a smaller size, as it should. There are major adjustments that are coming along with it. We still see risks that can come from the property sector. One, of course, is what happens with unfinished housing projects that were prepaid for. And here we think that the central government can play a bigger role, which is the central government can provide funding directly to complete these prepaid housing projects. We think that will help with boosting household confidence. But we also think it's important to have a quick exit of non-viable property developers. Both of those are going to be quite important, in addition to letting housing prices adjust more flexibly in getting a smoother transition.
Right, and is there a sense of progress on completing the homes?
Some progress is being made, but a lot more is needed, which is why we have the specific recommendation of trying to hasten this process.
Got it. And for real estate overall, how big is the risk now that we have some of these policy directions on resolving the issues there?
So the government has taken a lot of steps to help the property sector. We did see a recovery in the property sector in the beginning of this year, but more recently we have seen a decline and a softening in terms of housing sales, and the pressure remains. We've seen Country Garden go into default, which is one of the biggest private developers in China. So there remains a lot of stress in the market, there remains weakness in the market. This is not going to be over with very quickly. It's going to take some more time to transition back to a more sustainable size. We do think, though, that in addition to the measures that have been taken, that there is a more prominent role for the central government along the lines that I mentioned earlier.
Got it. And you do mention in your assessment that financial stability risks are elevated and still risky as financial institutions have lower capital buffers. We hear all kinds of headlines every couple of months about certain funds having issues. What would you watch for to really let investors know, okay, this is something normal, part of the adjustment, this is something that is dangerous?
If you look at the financial system as a whole, we think there is stability in the financial system as a whole. But yes, there are some small and mid-sized banks which have much more exposure to the property market where we are seeing greater risks. I think in terms of which indicators matter, a lot depends upon how the adjustment in the property sector goes through and what kinds of actions the government takes. If there's a disorderly adjustment that generates contagion to other sectors and freezing up of funding to other sectors, then that will obviously have a very negative effect on the financial system. But in the absence of that, we do see the possibility of having a more orderly downsizing of the property sector. The other area where, of course, risks emanate from is on local government debt. Local government debt is quite high. We're seeing stress in that particular area. Restructuring will be needed. So that's another risk to watch out for.
So kind of stability all around. You met with a lot of Chinese officials, including the head of the central bank, head of the Securities Commission. What was something that came up frequently, something they were interested in talking to you about?
We discussed many issues. I think there is a broad recognition of some of the major risks, and we saw that coming out of the Central Financial Work Conference. 3 risks. 1, the property sector. 2nd, local government debt. And 3rd is small and medium-sized banks. Clear recognition of that. We're looking to see what exactly would be done in terms of concrete measures. That's one area. But of course, for China, there is the bigger concern also of where will medium-term growth come from. We have medium-term growth for China at around 3.5%. However, we think that that number can be raised if they undertake pro-market structural reforms.